Hi everybody, we've just logged in again for our Power Talk today with Alexia Inge and myself, Sarah Simmons. Let's hope that we can do this without technical difficulties. So I am just inviting Alexia to join the live. Fingers that Alexia comes in. Yes, it's saying yay!
You
Awesome!
made it.
Hi Alexia!
Hello.
Hi. So, welcome, Alexia. Welcome to all of you from around the world joining us today. So, Alexia is founder of international 100 million plus beauty platform Cult Beauty. And Alexia is going to share with us today her journey to impact, all about how she became an impact entrepreneur, what her vision was, tips and secrets and strategies for launching a business in a crisis, all sorts of amazing new strategies to share with you. So let's begin at the beginning. So it was 2007 and you had a vision for a new kind of business. What was that all about, Alexia?
So my co-founder Jess and I met in 2007 and we decided to start a business together as frustrated consumers that were tired of being oversold beauty products. Ultimately, as complete beauty obsessives, we really found that walking into multi-brand beauty stores should be like a sweet shop, but it felt actually ended up feeling quite intimidating. And we really wanted to solve for the really big issue that the beauty industry has, which is an excess of choice.
Yeah.
I mean, this, you speak to anyone, even people that are real experts within the business, they still feel just like there's too much out there, and so Cult Beauty is a filtered down beauty hall of fame, so you can go on there and know that each product's been selected very specifically for efficacy and for its cultness ultimately.
You said you really you wanted to build a space where all niche beauty brands could have a home. I found that really inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes from, I've always been really interested in indie brands, whether it's beauty or fashion, and that kind of artisanal essence that makes things really cult, so much more effortlessly than for a sort of historic corporate brand to do. It's much harder for them to do that.
Yeah.
And I just love storytelling. And it's the stories behind the brands that really floats my boat. That's kind of what gets me excited
Me
about a
too.
brand.
Me too.
And it's almost like you go on the journey with the brand as the brand grows up, and sometimes you're disappointed. Sometimes the brands take a left at the traffic lights, which you didn't expect. And
Can I ask you why? Because I agree with you. I'm really passionate about storytelling for brands, and I think it's key to their success and their impact. Why do you think storytelling is so important?
I think ultimately with our entire lives moving online, moving virtual, we've become dehumanized. I think when you see it in the sort of the ways that people email into Cult Beauty, like they're not expecting there to be a human at the other end of the email, just expecting bots. It's kind of, it cuts out all of this really important part of humanity. Computer says no.
Mm.
We can all we can all remember a time when that happened in the last 24
Mhm.
hours.
Mhm.
And there's something so wonderfully human scale about indie brands, and actually having a founder, a figurehead founder at the front, telling that story, a real thinking, feeling, breathing person. And it's not just about the thinking, feeling person. It's also a person standing up to be counted, a person taking responsibility for that brand. So just having that sense that you are, that you could email them, you could contact them on Instagram and say, I'm really cross. I don't like the lid.
And how do you think
people might do?
Yeah. And how have you found like the success of these sort of niche brands, independent brands, and how big an opportunity do you think it is right now? Because brands can, like, we're in this such an exciting moment where brands can pivot, they can launch something new. People watching this can actually go out there and launch a new business. And I know you were saying, like, it was such an exciting moment for you through the journey of cult beauty, that you've seen this opening up of the beauty market for brands to be able to launch a brand and then actually sell it directly and digitally.
You know, in the 12 years since I co-founded Cult, I've seen the barriers to entry to starting a brand are definitely lower. You need much less investment because the marketing that you need to get over that kind of awareness hump is much cheaper if you're clever.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's really important not to launch a brand just for the sake of launching a brand. You have to launch a brand with purpose. You have to have very clear mission and very clear values behind your brand. I mean, those values don't necessarily have to be vegan and whatever, but you know, it has to be a very clear messaging, and you need to be very clear on who that brand is for. The days of kind of blasting people and just going for mass. I want growth. What do you want? I want growth. It's like, no, but what's your brand going to be? Big. You know, that was kind of, we had a few years of that in sort of 2015, 16, 17, especially in beauty. Very much sort of driven by a flood of private equity money that came into the beauty industry. And we had a lot of very cynical brand pitches that came to Cult Beauty, and they would come with lots of data and lots of graphs around how females like to buy beauty, and you know, this is the behavior that we're seeing, blah blah blah. And I was like, where's your heart? My God, I mean, I hated every second of those meetings because it just didn't connect with it. There was nothing to connect to. It's like a kind of T-file surface, and it's, you know, it really is about sort of putting out like messages, signifiers that tell people that you are something that they want to connect to. So giving them reasons to want to connect with you as a brand, because it's no longer just a commercial exchange. You know, I think what the consumer, there's been a really interesting awakening and understanding over the last say 3 years really with consumers, but very especially in 2020, that your pound, your dollar that you're spending on this product is your vote. It's your vote for this brand and what this brand does and the impact it has, whether that's a really positive impact on the local environment or whether it's a negative one. You know, it's sometimes it can be both. But that realization has grown a whole new group of consumers who aren't necessarily related in the sort of stuff that they love, but what they are related on, or they all agree on, is that the value and ethos of a brand is the most important part of it. So whether it's a vegan brand or whether it's a brand that stands against racism, you know, these things are really important in a way that they just weren't to consumers before.
Conscious. The world has become conscious.
Which can mean so many different things, but actually that's why there's so much power in that term. But it's also why it will be misused, and like conscious washing is definitely a thing.
Yeah. And what brands do you see? Like, so what was the journey like for you? You know, what was that moment that you decided you wanted to make impact?
I mean, I don't think I actually thought of it like that. I just wanted to change something that I felt was broken from my experience. And then
Right.
when I spoke to a lot of people, they kind of went, yeah, I feel the
Yeah.
same.
And
And actually people from very different backgrounds. So I was like, okay, this feels like actually, you know, there's a lot of people who are really confused about beauty, who are quite excited about beauty and in all its different forms, but they actually end up just going back and buying the same old thing that the mum bought because they're just a bit fearful about taking that step into something else. And this was really about removing that fear, giving confidence through transparency, through this storytelling, and actually just really a big focus on building trust.
so Cult Beauty, what does it offer? Does it offer all sorts of brands that you can't get anywhere else?
Yeah, we have a bunch of those. I mean, we have some brands that you can get in a bunch of places like Charlotte Tilbury, because ultimately it's a really cult brand. But we have we call them the incubator brands that actually are only available either on their own website or sometimes not even on their own website. That we see a real spark in. They were like, okay, I think you could be something really very special in the future, and you've got all of the ingredients to make a really great brand. And with a little help on how to, you know, build your range, how to maybe package a little bit better, or actually deal with distribution side of things, then you can really fly. So it's
And
always a
what,
bit of a partnership with those
yeah, that's amazing that you've been championing all these brands, and it's what people want. They want different and unique. And so what tips would you give someone who wants to start a beauty brand today?
Find your need, find a need to solve, um, rather than kind of coming from the, you know, design or like the beauty aspect of it. Really kind of spend a lot of time thinking about what are you solving, who is this for. And actually, if you actually get that right, what's your mission, then you're in a really, really good space. And actually the purity of that message will always come through. And the other thing is, it takes time, guys. It takes time, you know. You've got to be patient, and especially now, like it's and actually I talk about slow beauty, but if you take time to build your brand, the foundations that you build will be a lot more solid. You know, there's a consciousness that you have to get through. We're all so fragmented in our day and all of the things that we're looking at all the time. So we actually, in order to really solidify your brand in people's minds, it takes time. It needs to come from loads of different directions, and collaboration is the other thing. So collaborate with like-minded people. And especially if you can build a mutual relationship where you're not standing on each other's toes, where you're actually kind of elevating your brands by association. That's another really great way to build your brand.
I completely agree. I call, finding your purpose. What's your unique superpower? What's unique about you? What fills your heart? Do you like that?
Yeah.
Unique superpower. Because we're all superheroes. We need to be, the superpower inside us. What's unique about you? And it's what, don't you agree that when you've really unlocked and defined what's unique about you, you hone in on it, you focus on it. This is when you create a successful brand that has lasting impact.
And that, I mean, and also the act of creation is something that evolves you as a person as well. I mean, I've evolved massively through the last 12 years, and especially with confidence. Started off really quite low in confidence, and just listening to every single voice that was out there and finding myself just spinning round and round and round. And actually it was that realization when you come back to your mission and you question your mission when you're getting advice that's counter to your gut. And actually, if it doesn't feed into your mission, it's a really good tool to help you kind of focus a little bit. Because
I agree. I think that's such great advice, Alexia, because what's your mission? What's your mission? And I call it as well, like your brand positioning statement, which comes from your mission,
Yeah.
like building that into a brand positioning statement. I completely agree, because there's so much noise out there and there's so many different opinions, and it's so easy to go and like be led with the wind and to go into
Yeah.
these different directions. And as entrepreneurs, often that's what happens unless you've really defined your mission. And when you have that, it, as you said, it gives you this incredible confidence.
Yeah, it does eventually. It took a while for me. I think not for everybody.
No,
Um,
it takes a while for everybody. It takes a while for everybody. But the more structured we are, I think, the more like structured we are, the more planned we are, the more we're clear we are, the easier it becomes.
yeah, and I think that is absolutely for everything in life. It's not just for business. Um, and I think the younger generation is better equipped to deal with entrepreneurship than I
Yeah.
feel as a young Xer, old millennial maybe. Who am I
I'm the
kidding? Young
same.
Xer. I think you were told to know your place a
Yeah.
lot more, um, in a way, and sometimes that was useful because you weren't expecting to be like head of your department within the first year, but at the same time it that kind of thinking does hold you back. I think there's a slight element of being female that led into that as well. Um, but there's, I think really the main thing to overcome as you start is probably the hurdles that you put up in your own mind.
Yeah.
And then once you've got that clear and you've got your mission clear, it really is just focusing on that and letting it happen.
How did you come out, like, get through the hurdles in your own mind?
I mean, varying different ways. I think it was actually a collection of just seeing the success from decisions I'd made. And actually, I guess one thing that's really also really important, especially in the difficult first years of the entrepreneurial journey, is to celebrate the small successes
Yeah.
as well, so that you're not always nexting.
Yeah.
That you're busy, you've got so many things on your plate, it's really easy to next. It's something that everyone does end up doing. It's nobody's perfect in it, but to just
Yeah.
focus and have a moment of celebration where you're like, boy, we just did that, we just hit X number of orders, or this person just retweeted us, or these are all really like, this is what builds a
Significant.
brand. It's a brick by brick.
Yeah. I so agree with you. And I really encourage, that is the most amazing, awesome advice, Alexia. And I really encourage everybody to celebrate every day about a success that you've had that day, because absolutely it's one brick at a time. I love that. And I think I agree with you. Everybody's always nexting. And I would say build it into a practice. That's what's really helped me, is like build it into a practice of daily saying, yeah, that
Oh God,
happened.
I haven't quite. I'm not quite there yet. I've got to be. I've got to be better at that actually, because that. I mean, it's the path to contentment, isn't it? Really,
Yes.
to have that moment of just celebrating something really awesome that's happened in the last 24 hours. Because we're increasingly as a society just
Yeah.
forward looking, and ultimately 2020's made a great indent on that. Actually, it's kind of brought us back. It's like we were all running on an elastic band, and the elastic band finally went and we all had to go, oh, shit, we actually have to, sorry, we all have to actually stop for a second. We can't carry on running against this band, and let's stop and actually look around. It's like, oh my God, this place is dusty. I need to actually look after myself, my home for a bit, and my family.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and the
And
well-being
beauty
aspect as well,
and
being,
wellness
yeah,
and looking after everything within inside us to create on the outside amazing transformation in the world. So
Yeah.
what was the, like, how was the journey of being, you know, your journey? Like, how do you go from like 0 to over 100 million?
Well, 12 years of
That's really key.
brick by brick. And actually the first four were really, really difficult. We launched Cult Beauty. It was sort of sandwiched between Northern Rock going down and Lehman Brothers going down in 2008. And we had a lot of people saying that no one would buy beauty products online because the only other online stores were pretty much grey market. So, or it was salons that just offloading old stock. So, you know, it wasn't the most salubrious of, of fronts to put our shop next to. But I just enjoyed the whole concept of online so much. It just didn't make sense to me that it wouldn't be something that would catch on and would grow, because it's just so easy. Like, and anything that makes your life easier is always going to work. It's always
Yeah.
going to do well.
Yeah.
So I guess looking at the hard things that were happening, but really understanding that we had a secret that no one else had kind of worked out yet, and we couldn't really believe that no one else had not worked it out. You know, it's just like, this online thing's going to be big. Like, I'm not a genius. It just felt so intuitive.
Yeah.
So that kind of, that drove us through the tough times. You know, whenever who was it at the time? I think it was Gordon Brown, did his chancellor's speech and talked about the unemployment figures and how gloomy and doomy and terrible everything was. We wouldn't get an order for a week after that, and we had it linked up to start off with, where the orders came through as emails. Nothing for a week, and then after a week, one would come through, we're like, we've got an order, everybody. There's talking about celebrating the small things. We got an order. You know, so it was really, really tough going, but then you celebrated when the orders came back in, and actually, you know, when we got some great brands in that started to introduce people to Cult Beauty, and then they started to kind of explore out from the brand they knew and try all of these different indie brands. Because in 2008, people they weren't really that interested in indie brands. It was all about the brands with the big bucks marketing, and they were the ones that carried the entire beauty industry and dictated how the beauty industry was structured. So yeah, we did set ourselves a pretty tough trial, but you know, ultimately
That's the journey of the entrepreneur. Set yourself a tough trial, do something different, and be in it for the long haul. And I love, like, your journey of grit and determination. Like, it wasn't an easy journey, and I think that's a really important message to give to people. It's like, go through that journey of grit and determination. Don't give up. Like, if you want to give up, it's about, like, what would you say to someone if they want to give up? I think it's about learning more, getting yourself, surrounding yourself with different experts, learning new skills.
It's sort of, if it's not working, it is about honestly questioning why it's not working.
Yeah.
But it's where honest friends are really useful.
Yeah.
But also, you know, just going out and doing your research and looking into it. And sometimes there's sort of a thing that you've never even thought of that's blocking it, that you can kind of lift the sluice gate, and suddenly things change. So, I mean, sometimes that's an energetic blockage. Sometimes it's a misunderstanding, that will suddenly make things flow better again. So you do have to have some pretty honest conversations with yourself. And, you know, you don't want to flog a dead horse. You don't want to kind of kill yourself on something that isn't quite working. So yeah, educating yourself and speaking to experts. They always have a tip, and sometimes it's like the throwaway comments at the end of the conversation, and you latch on, you go, wait, what did you just say there?
Absolutely. And what about mentors? Have you had mentors?
Do you know, I haven't had an ongoing mentor, but I do love chatting to people that have achieved amazing things. And we did have one mentor moment that was just, it was such a breakthrough moment that I'll always remember. And it was just one day, but it's the president of Free People, a lady called Megan Hayes. And she was married to the founder of Urban Outfitters, actually. And she was a customer of ours. And I remember the first order she put in was £800, and our average order value at the time was like 40 quid. I saw the order come through, obviously, on my email. And I was like, wow, that's got to be fraud, right? That's got to be fraud. That can't be real. So I called the number, hello, and got her housekeeper. And she was like, oh yeah, that totally sounds like her. I was like, oh, okay, cool. She's got a housekeeper. It's probably real. And anyway, so she carried on ordering from us, and she contacted us out of the blue and said, look, we're launching anthropology in the UK. So I'm coming over. Do you want to meet up? Because I love what you guys have done, and you know, it's just always good to do that sort of thing. So we met her, and she gave us a day of her time and just talked through ideas, talked through everything. And then we actually had dinner with her and her husband that evening, the first billionaire I've ever met. So we were like, oh my God, what does one wear to meet a billionaire, especially when you're very, very poor? Like, what doesn't have holes in it, damn it? Yeah, but she said something to us that really, really resonated. She's like, you guys, it's like 3 people in your outfit, but you're doing this kind of crazy Wizard of Oz thing where you're pitching yourself as this sort of massive multinational brand. And we were like, yeah, and we did really well, didn't we? Because you didn't know. And she was like, but you know, at Free People, we spend our life trying to come across as a mom and pop store. Like, that you've got to understand that, you know, the value, the strengths that you have as it just being 3 of you, is if somebody calls up because they've got a product question, they're talking to the founder of the company. So make people understand that. Be honest about who you are, because actually there's real strength in being that personalized, humanized thing. You know, that's what people are wanting. So we were really quiet. Like, when we were like, do you know what, it's so right, because it was that sort of fake it till you make it 80s vibe that we were taking on, which is, you know, it's a very male way of doing business as well. And it really wasn't us, because Jess and I just not naturally those kind of people. And actually just understanding what individual value you do bring, the different value that you bring as an individual, and celebrate that through your brand, with your brand. And some of the things that you think are actually a downer or a negative can actually end up being a real positive. You just need to look at it from the right point of view. And that was just such it's such an epiphany for me. I was like, yeah, they're talking to the founder. That's like the best customer service you could possibly ever get. Let's make it more real. So I kind of stopped doing, oh, I'll get my assistant. And actually just started just being really real about what Cult Beauty was and everything that we were doing. And I'm really sorry that we can't get this to you, because basically we just can't fit it into the day, and we'll do this tomorrow. And actually following up with people and just being honest and being human, and that's what people fell in love with, I think.
And that's such an interesting point to pick up on: being honest, being human, being real, and being authentic. So there you were, building your business, and you know, you found the courage to be real, honest, authentic. And this is what people loved about you and your business. And now I know that authenticity is something that you and I have bonded over a lot and talked about. And I know it's a big passion of yours about authenticity, and this being a huge opportunity for authenticness, not greenwashing authenticity. Like, yeah. What do you think is the the biggest opportunity of our time for people watching this now as impact entrepreneurs, people who want to launch something, or also founders who are watching this and they think, I need to transform my business. I need to come at it from a new angle. Why do you think, authenticity is so key?
Well, if you're not authentic, I think we've all become really, really good bullshit detectors.
Yes.
And if you are, especially as consumers, because in this world of fake news, everyone's like antennas are sort of massively up and honed. And if you're not being authentic in your message, people will sense it. They might not know they're sensing it. They'll just be put off. So really, it's the only way to be. And you know what, if you're authentic and you put yourself out there and you're transparent, and then people don't like it, then
they're
they
not for
don't like
you.
it. They'll go on, and they're
They're
never
not for
really
you.
going to be an ongoing customer, if that was the case anyway. So
It's better to stand for something than stand for nothing.
it is. And you know what, you'll have detractors. You'll have people that will really question you and push your buttons, and because it can be quite scary, but that's where you go back to your mission, and you refocus back in on your mission. And actually, sometimes when you get a bunch of people who you've frustrated or angered with your message, it's because you've hit a chord. It's because you've actually come up with a truth and when you do that, you get a very broad range of reactions. So there's a sort of a thickening of skin that does need to happen along the way as well.
I think that's really important to share with people, because there's such a it's scary, this journey, and it takes sort of facing yourself and being able to be vulnerable and feel exposed because you're being real and authentic, and kind of allow that and go through the journey of going to
It's
the
so
other
scary.
side.
It's so scary. I mean, and nobody's got it right. I mean, that's the other thing to know, is it's very easy to give advice and hypothesize about things, but when you're faced with that situation in your face, you're still human, you're still fallible, and as is everyone. I mean, the problem, I think, is this lack of tolerance and this kind of cancel culture that's out there, where people just go, well, she's dead to me because I disagree with her. And it's like, well, there's grey areas in every argument, right? So that's as a human, as a citizen, it's really important to try and support that, and actually not just jump to the negative, especially on social media, and maybe ask a couple of questions around what's happening in something if you feel very strongly about it.
Yeah, and I think what you said about confidence, confidence comes from living through these painful moments and surviving them, and embrace, and rather than and embracing them and going through them and feeling vulnerable and feeling exposed and allowing it, and then going the next day, brush yourself down and go, wow, I
made it.
I made it.
Woo! Another celebration, another brick. It is really true, because it is such a complicated thing to try and build a vision, and try and build a brand and a mission, because you always get detractors, and you always get people questioning, but sometimes their motives are not pure, and sometimes it is purely just because they're a bit jealous of what you're doing. So you can never second guess what makes people act in a certain way. All you can do is really be confident that you've thought through your mission enough that you can just put it out there.
I agree. So I'm gonna this has been an amazing conversation. I'm gonna ask you a couple of last questions. What do you think is the opportunity for people to launch something new now in this crisis?
I think it's tough, being new when people are a little bit timid on spending is hard, but I mean that's exactly what we did. And actually launching in a time of crisis, launching in an economic recession, it makes you very light-footed. It makes you look at the decisions you're making. It makes you get rid of whimsy and actually focus on things that you really believe are going to work. So it kind of you cut the chaff away a little bit. It really it's like going to entrepreneurial gym, and really fasting almost, because you know that fasting makes your body more efficient. I think it's the same thing a little bit for businesses, in that it builds a very strong foundation so that when things do get better, and they do get better, then you're in a brilliant position to move forward, because you have all the good disciplines that are needed for a sustainable business.
And you've built such an amazing business coming out of a crisis, because you built this strong foundation.
Yeah, with an awesome team.
Awesome team.
This is the thing. I always feel a little bit awkward talking about building the business, because we've all built the business together, and like just such hard work that's gone into it. So, and inspiration from all of those guys. I think that's the next thing to talk about is recruitment, is bringing on partners, is bringing on employees that really believe in your mission and are going to help you create this vision, because no one can do this on their own without completely killing themselves, and going slightly loopy and in the process. But yeah, so building a team, and really I've realized that the gut feel when employing people that's like the most important thing. So once you've done your due diligence, you know that they're not faking their CV, and you've done your references, just when you meet them, I find that kind of the first minute really is where I decide. I always used to do that, and then I used to go mad, and then go back over CVs and go, oh, but they've got this experience and this experience, and second guess myself. And the times that I've done that and changed from my gut, always made a mistake. It's never been the right person.
And don't you think that applies to everything in business, is really following your intuition?
Well, using data and following your gut.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have said that about 10 years ago, but looking for proof, because you can read different stories into behaviors that you see around you. So it is good, hypothesize with your gut and back it up with data.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's the way to roll, the insurance policy.
I agree. Analysis, look at your past and plan your future.
Yeah.
And so to end with one last question on, what do you think of conscious? Like, do you think the conscious age has arrived? Are consumers really wanting meaning? Because I believe they are in so much deeper ways.
We're at the beginning of the conscious age, and I think a lot of the trouble, pandemic aside, a lot of the trouble that we've been seeing is old constructs fighting the new constructs coming in. And it's, old constructs, have been very comfortable for a long time. Of course they're going to deny the new order, the new way of doing things, because it's not comfortable. It doesn't work in the streams that they're used to. It's new and different for a lot of people, and some people it actually threatens their being, or their not the well-being, their businesses.
Yes.
So what we are seeing right now is that pushback explosion, and it's going to take a while of uncomfortable moments like that, of difficult pushing. It feels like kind of pushing a boulder uphill, and especially the more innovative you're being, probably the more you're going to feel like that. But it is bringing in a new way of thinking and a new way of doing things.
Yeah, and to also know, like, when you're doing something consciously, when you're doing something impactful, even when it feels like you're pushing a boulder up a hill, or it might feel difficult or challenging, to know with comfort and reassurance that you're on a future facing wave. You're part of the future, which I think is incredibly exciting, because you're doing something that's actually only going to get bigger.
It's true. And all of those people who are pushing against it are the past, and they will fall away. It's going to take a little bit of time. So it's going to be interesting times over the next 10 years, I think. But it's great to see that the shoots of change are already appearing.
So strongly appearing, so strongly appearing. As you say, like the conscious age, you know, in 2007 was something like theoretical. Now it's like it's actually here, and it's growing in momentum every single day. And like you were kind of one of the pioneers of beauty now, and look how big you've built your business. Now is the opportunity for people who are the pioneers of impact to do the same thing.
You never stop. I mean, like we've got a lot of growing to do as well as a business. So like, how do we take whole beauty into this conscious age as well? I mean, that's the other thing, is that don't ever think, well, I've achieved my goal. Woo, time to go home. No, because there's always something new, and you know, the addiction of entrepreneurship is always going after that.
And being an innovator and being a pioneer. And that's amazing as well, like, because you built this foundation and now you can evolve it to always be on the new, which is awesome as well.
And sometimes that means supporting the old.
Because
I mean, I guess that's one of the problems with the beauty industry as well, is an obsession, like on its sort of very literal sense, from what you just said, is actually the obsession of constant newness. And actually sometimes there are age-old recipes and products that just have never been bettered, and they come in such a simple form that they're actually very low impact on the world around them as well. So it's not always the new thing that is the best thing, but always striving to evolve is really, really key.
Amazing. Well, thank you for this beautiful and awesome and inspiring conversation, Alexia.
It was really fun. It was really fun to talk to you now, and a few weeks ago when we first met as well. So thank you so much for inviting me along.
My pleasure. And let's do it again in 2021, and we will talk more about where the world has gone to. Amazing.
How far we've come.
Thank you so much, Alexia, and wishing you a beautiful evening and a beautiful Christmas time.
You too. Bye-bye.
Mwah. Bye. Take care.